Fighting games are my personal favorite genre. Although I'm not a pro, and I might even argue I'm better at other genres, I really enjoy playing them. However, I think that I speak for most people when I say fighting games aren't easy to get into, not by a long shot. And the people who make these games know that, and there's been a series of attempted solutions for that problem. Today, we're getting into the nitty-gritty on why fighting games are so hard to get into, and the ways creators have tried to solve it, and how successful they've been. But without further ado, let's begin. Allow me to set you a scenario if you don't mind. A new fighting game just dropped, and you decide to play it because why not? You've always been kinda interested in the genre. You get the game, and you begin to play the story mode that comes with it. After playing for a little while, you begin to feel pretty confident in your abilities with the game. Obviously, you know that there's some combos in the game, so you decide to delve into it a little bit more. Okay, you've been kinda denying this for a while, but it was a bridge you eventually would have to cross. You're able to pull off the move sometimes, but you can't pull it off consistently, let alone put it in a combo. So, obviously needing some help, you look up a tutorial.
Let me go to this combo list real fast. What the fuck? These combos hard as hell!
And at this point, there's a lot of drop off. Let's be realistic. Most people don't have the time, nor do they want to invest it into learning things like this. Command and motion inputs are definitely the strongest detractors for new players in the fighting game space. There really is no special trick to getting good at these, and they will take a long time to get good at, and they're just very frustrating to deal with overall. And that's not even the worst of it. Combos aren't just doing certain inputs, but then stringing them together into one smooth conjunction of attacks to actually combo, which sometimes requires extra shenanigans. This includes re-jumps, delays, intentionally missing attacks, loops, and some other stuff I probably forgot to mention. Getting down the optimal combo route and performing them consistently can be extremely taxing, especially considering all of the specific routes you need to pick up depending on each situation. Something as simple as dealing damage to your opponent gets complicated really fast. So, let's say you finally did nail down these inputs and began to learn some combos. Good for you. You decide to eventually hop online, skilled for the world ahead of you, and then you get beat like a little baby with an angry father. There's still a lot you need to learn to become competent, like learning frame data, other character movesets, being able to pick on your opponent's playstyle, and learning how to punish. All this analytical stuff is probably one of the last things you'd expect, but these small little details and your knowledge on them can decide whether or not you win a match. Anyone can learn how to do a hard combo, but if you face someone who has much better overall knowledge than yourself, it's not going to end well for you. All these seemingly minute details culminate into whether or not you win or lose, and in games like these, one mistake can cost you a whole match. All in all, things can get pretty brutal for a new player. The learning curve can be very tough, and often serves as a pretty big reality check. But do not yet fret, because we're moving on to... Considering how troublesome fighting games can be for a new player, creators of these new games have tried to ease them in a little bit more. Let's go over one some of you might be familiar with. In a series of games, there are auto combos, a mechanic that allows a character to complete an entire combo by mashing the same button. The purpose of this mechanic is to give new players a way to actually begin comboing and give them a feel of actual gameplay. And I've got to say, this idea was pretty genius. By giving tools like auto combos, new players can begin to understand what characters can do, which makes getting into the game much easier. The only main problem with auto combos is that execution can vary. Unfortunately, not all auto combos can be created equally. Some characters just have better ones, which is hard to fix just in general. Also, some auto combos can be very linear and force players into one sequence, which also quells encouragement to experiment. Although auto combos can be great, and usually are, execution is key, and you've got to make sure that it can help and encourage the player to do more, while keeping it grounded to make that transitional phase easier. One of the other big factors that attempt to make getting into fighting games easier is something called modern or simple controls. And for me personally, I think that they're the best implementation for teaching new players how to play fighting games. Take something like
Gran Blue Fantasy Versus Rising.
GBVSR is a prime example of why this works. By taking the original moveset of characters and smashing them into at most 3 buttons, it gives new players full access to the whole character's kit. By doing this, it makes using the full character moveset much easier. Similar could be said with Street Fighter 6. Although they have a much more intricate moveset, so modern controls don't cover everything, it still allows new players to get a feel of the playstyle of each character and keeps them capable of success. And the penalties implemented with these simple controls solves the auto combo problem. By making these inputs deal less damage, or by somewhat limiting the full moveset, it encourages players to actually pick up motion inputs and fully apply them. And it seems like that this trend may be here to stick around. Upcoming games like Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls seem to be using similar tactics. I think modern controls and movesets are amazingly crafted, enticing players to not only learn some pretty good combos, but also encouraging them to learn motion inputs. Tools like these help remove the overall fear factor of learning combos and help slowly guide the player into the right direction. Now on to the final thing. As fighting games have evolved, they seem to be using a more diverse palette of play besides beating up another person, as well as having guides. What seems to be the most popular is the story mode. The game will have some sort of story, either self-contained or connected to an overarching plot, and using it as a way to kind of ease players in. Mostly, they'll put you up against CPUs that are easy to deal with, and aren't much trouble to beat. And then, there's options like trials. In some games, there are built-in combo tutorials that teach relatively basic combos, but nothing you'd realistically use. To be honest, they don't provide much value for new players. Yes, they're easy, but I think that pumps up a new player just for them to get humbled when put up against someone with competence. All of these modes can teach you some basic stuff, but never really show you how to apply it. Now, I don't want anyone to take this as me saying that fighting games are terrible and hostile to new players. In fact, I find the challenge of getting into them fun. Games like these truly lack no skill ceiling. In seeing all the crazy stuff I saw in these games, and eventually being able to perform them myself, was what made it so exhilarating to play them. And once you do get a good grip on fighting games, you can basically pick up and play any other one. Obviously, they'll come with their own challenges, but due to the overall core of these games, applying your skills to them makes transitioning from each one much smoother than others. But I want to hear what you guys think. Do you think the fighting game genre is really that difficult to pick up? What do you think on things like modern controls, game tutorials, and auto combos? And I guess a special Tyrex bonus question, what do you think of motion inputs? Are they a thing of the past and should be let go and let the fighting game genre evolve? Or do you think there's value in them? I might make a video later on about this, so feel free to share. With that, this video comes to a wrap. Thanks for tuning in.